Delighted to be joined now by James Heale, political correspondent at The Spectator. Good morning to you, James.
Good morning, Julia.
Thank you so much for joining us. Now, have you been having a wonderful, exciting party conference season, and are you glad it's over?
I really am. I really am glad it's over because it's been quite a heavy through 3 weeks.
Get my little violin out.
Yeah, all the endless merchandise and champagne receptions at the Tories, but also there was the misery and the reign of Liverpool. So it's really been a tale of two contrasts, I'd say.
It really is. And this is the really strange thing, isn't it? How Labour should be doing this victory lap and the Tories should have been this sort of, misery fest. And it's almost like the opposite way round. It was really confusing. Keir Starmer back in the news today. This should have been, the political stories, the Westminster stories should have been all about, the 4 Tory leadership candidates doing their final pitch to party members before next Wednesday and next Thursday. We're going to have their votes by MPs to whittle it down to the final 2. And yet, stories back front page, even with the middle of a Middle East crisis, Keir Starmer and freebie gate. He'll hope, I'm thinking, that these are good news stories because he's paid back £6 grand's worth of free concert tickets. These are Taylor Swift tickets. I mean, grand shot, thank you very much, over 2 different nights. But he's kept all the suits. He's ended the rental agreement for designer clothes that was for his wife, some tickets to the races, but it's kept everything else. And given that he's taken well over 100 grand's worth of freebies, do you think this does put the story to bed? Or given the claims about Lord Alli's register of interest and all the other things that are emerging, Angela Rayner taking an 800 quid freebie in Ibiza when she was in that DJ booth, that actually this story is keeping on running 3 weeks now, and actually it's done a lot of damage and is continuing to damage both Keir Starmer and the party.
Absolutely, and I think it was slightly baffling today for Keir Starmer to return some of the money in terms of gifts, £6,000, while, of course, as you say, not returning the £32,000 in clothes from Lord Alli. So it's a kind of half-in, half-out thing which almost reignites interest in the story. It undermines his defence that no rules were broken, suggests he's got something to hide. And actually, you've now got every Labour minister going out on the morning round and being asked about their own declarations and will they return money or not.
Yeah, there's no doubt at all that many Labour MPs, not just those who've spoken out or left the party, as Rosie Duffield said, did over this, are hopping mad about this. And there is an element, isn't there, where, he ruined it for everyone. Everyone was doing it. It was within the rules. And then he went over the top, took too much. We all made it. It's a big story. We all got angry about it. And now it's all ruined for everyone. Like the people who tried to claim for duck houses and moats on the expenses. And when it goes too far, it's ruined for everyone. I mean, the reality is, though, most MPs do accept freebies. And I would have thought, actually, a lot of the time it's a local business. They'd like to have the MP there. It's not actually corrupt. It's not dodgy. If you're the shadow culture secretary or the culture secretary, of course you're going to go to sporting events, the opera, art galleries events, whatever it is. But this does seem to have been just completely over the top, particularly, I think, the Taylor Swift tickets, but particularly also, crucially, the money from Lord Alli, the huge tens of thousands of pounds worth of help he's had from Lord Alli, a lot of which also hasn't been fully declared, like the cost of that penthouse apartment in Covent Garden for 18 million quid during his son's GCSEs, he claims, although it kept it for a month after his GCSEs are finished, worth way more than the 20 grand which Keir Starmer claimed for it.
Definitely, and of course, the other thing reigniting interest in this story is the news yesterday that the Lords Commissioners for Standards are investigating Lord Alli about his proper declarations, whether everything was declared above board. And that's obviously because everyone's taken such a huge interest. Everyone's now digging into Lord Alli because, as you say, Julia, he basically took tens of thousands of pounds in gifts, in use of hospitality. And I do have some sympathy with MPs who, as you say, go to local businesses, etc. The key thing Keir Starmer did was campaign so heavily on this and suggest there was sleaze when there wasn't. And I think that's what's really coming to bite back at him now.
Although Keir Starmer's criticism of Boris Johnson were quite right. Boris Johnson didn't register these things appropriately. He didn't register the full amount, didn't register who the donor was, what was from, these villas in the Caribbean and the like. Again, why can't you just pay for your own? The man's worth millions. Pay for your own sodding holidays. It's just extraordinary that they think that there is this entitlement. But Keir Starmer was banged to rights on that, and then he made this mistake himself. Do you think his defence of, I've done nothing wrong, I've not committed a crime, I've obeyed the rules, do you think that stands up when he then pays some of the money back and says he needs to change the rules and says he won't do it again? Because that if you've done nothing wrong, why not carry on doing it?
Yeah, I think it also just reawakens the story. It just seems a sort of bizarre tactic to pay some of the back, but not others.
Yeah.
I think there's that. There's also the fact that when it comes to Keir Starmer's previous register of interest, he's made several mistakes before. I think this is about the third story in about 4 years involving his register. So I think clearly he's had a blind spot on this issue. Whoever's handling it needs to get a grip on it.
Yeah.
I think that Labour's whole issue around the whole Lord Alli thing was initially quite defensive. Then it was sort of, intrusive. They were looking at themselves, being quite introspective. Now they sort of admit they've got things wrong. They're going to overhaul the system. And I think it's really been badly handled, drawn out over 4, 5, 6 weeks. They just haven't got...
Is it that long now? Because I'm thinking we've definitely gone full throttle on it for about 3 weeks. I mean...
Well, during the end of July, there was the Glasses for Passes story about access for Lord. So, and at that point, you then think we should get ahead and declare all these, way in which he's declared everything. And then actually there was a Guardian story last week revealing more, I think £16,000 worth of clothes, which have been declared differently through the central party rather than...
That was it, yeah. And again, it just goes as some sort of campaign expense, And yet then also lots of questions being raised by tax accountants as well. I mean, I do, over the years, I've done lots of events, black tie events. Now, you boys could just rock up in the same black tie that you've either bought or rented. That's it. I'm expected to wear, I've done events where I've done like 6 years in a row. They're expecting me to have a different dress every time. I don't know about you guys, but I don't have that many full-length something evening gowns. I really don't. Not the stuff I wear on an average Friday night in the pub. So, I'm not allowed to claim for those as any even tax relief. They're not a business expense. That's not allowed unless it's like, unless you did a job as a clown. I know some people might make the comparison, and you're allowed to claim for your clown's outfit because you would never wear your clown's outfit except on stage. You can't do that. I just don't understand why MPs are allowed to put things which no one else is allowed to claim as a legitimate gift. We'd have to pay in kind, in the same way that someone who gets a company car has to pay as a gift, as a benefit in kind. If you're getting free seats, that's a benefit in kind. There's some tax accountants saying that he owes about 50 grand in tax to HMRC under the normal rules, but for some reasons MPs are exempt from this, it seems.
I think that there's going to be a lot of people feeding into this overhaul they're doing of the current rule system. Keir Starmer announced it's just a shame, unfortunately, that it comes at the same time that questions are being asked about his own affairs. It kind of puts a blight on it. Because I do think there's also loopholes in the system, such as, for instance, government ministers don't have to declare hospitality in the same way that opposition MPs were. So, 6 months ago, you'd have Labour MPs declaring something and sat at a dinner next to a Tory MP, and the Tory MP wouldn't have to declare it. So I feel a bit of sympathy on that. And as you said,
it's surely more important that we know who a government minister is sitting next to. And again, why have they been invited to that event? Are they all just amazing, scintillating company, or do people want something from them? And in which case, and again, if you've got money, and you're going to run a successful business, you can gain access to these people that a lot of ordinary voters can't do.
Yes, quite. And I think obviously you have to draw a distinction between official government duties and as lobbying campaigns as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I tell you one group of people who are definitely not going to be able to claim many expenses and getting many freebies because they're just sitting at home in their gym jams. Hello to them all right now, and that's a lot of civil servants. Hundreds of workers at the Office for National Statistics have backed an all-out strike in protest against being ordered back to the workplace. Not 5 days a week, not 4 days a week, not 3 days a week. Just 2 days a week they've been asked to turn up at their workplace. Now, they're all members of the PCS, that's the Public and Commercial Services Union. They've refused to go into the office since May, and now they're escalating the dispute, refusing to work overtime or out of hours, and they can announce industrial action at any point over the next 6 months. I mean, this is just following on from numerous different Whitehall departments, again, refusing to come and work in the office. What do you make of this?
Well, I was really struck by the quotes in the Telegraph story about this, which was suggesting that, they could work as well, if not better, at home than the office, which, of course, does raise issues about the office culture at the ONS if you take the union's words at face value. I think the really interesting thing about this, Julia, is this going to be a canary in the mine moment in the sense of will other public sector unions and other members of the PCS follow? At the moment, it's just confined to the ONS, which is a relatively small government agency. But I think that these kind of questions are going to be asked. And I suspect Labour will be less interested in public service reform than the Conservatives were, and less willing perhaps to take on this issue in terms of getting people back in the office. I just find it absolutely extraordinary that people take a job and they think that they can just decide where they are. I genuinely find it unbelievable. Your contract should say where you work. I mean, it's fair enough they can't say, we're going to ship you off to Siberia.
at a week's notice. Fair enough, but I don't know what contract. It's very simple. Your contract says you have to come into the office. So we'll see you on Monday. And if we don't see you on Monday, we'll assume you've resigned.
And also about training as well. The point is that you're supposed to have an ONS culture where you train people up, etc. I can imagine people are very established in their 40s, 50s, got their very nice public defined pension to look forward to. That's fine.
And a nice home, yeah.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Why would you want to go into the office and schlep over there? So I think that this is going to be a big test for Labour ministers, and I wonder, perhaps, given their past statements, whether they're up for it.
I can tell you right now they're not up for it. They're going to fail this test. James Heale, always great to talk to you, political correspondent at The Spectator. James Heale, thank you for that.